You know, this morning I was watching some of my Facebook Lives. I generally don't do that as a rule because when I worked in TV, they would tell us don't watch yourself because you're really hard on yourself. So you would think I would know better. But yeah, so I was watching some of my lives this morning, and every day I start the video with "Hi guys" in like this octave that's like way up here somewhere. Hi Lena. And I told myself as I'm drinking my coffee and critiquing myself, I'm like, I'm not going to do that anymore. I need to think of something new to say when I say hello to everybody. And wouldn't you know it, the first thing I do is I go, hi guys. So, yeah, can't teach an old dog new tricks, I suppose. How is everyone? Hi, Dorita. So glad you can make it. Hi, Dawn. And Sylvia, hi from Omaha. Sylvia, what's the weather in Omaha? There's Miss Sarah. Hi, girly girl. Terry, Tony, I'm so sorry. Mimi, I'm so glad to have everybody here. I don't know what the weather's doing where you live. It is a very chilly 39, I think, degrees outside, which is not super, super cold, but we got about 2 inches of snow last night. And it is melting away a bit now, but it's really weird because we never get snow. And this is the second snow that we have gotten this year before Christmas, which is amazing because we never get snow. So I'm like really hopeful that maybe we will have a really good snow day where like the kids get out of school and we can actually go out and enjoy it. This was a heavy, wet, kind of slushy, gross snow. You know the ones I'm talking about, just makes a mess everywhere. So anyway, yeah, that's us. We got snow. I think a lot of you all, at least on the eastern part of the U.S., got some snow. It's cold, it's gross, it's wet, and now everything's just muddy. So that's fun. All right, so let's get into business. Today is 20% off of Swarovski over on the Jesse James Beads website. You guys, when you can get 20% off or any percent off, let's be really, really real about this. When you can get any percentage off of Swarovski, it's a good day, right? It is a good, good day. I love Swarovski, and I love it when I can get a good deal on it because it has a tendency to be very, very expensive. And the strands that are available through jessejamesbeads.com are absolutely beautiful. They are put together in such a beautiful way. It's the same with all of the other bead strands. There's really some thought and creativity that is put into putting the strands together, putting the little mixes together, even with the Swarovski. So I appreciate that in such a deep way because they take some of the thinking out of it for me. So I can look at a Swarovski strand that comes from Jesse James Beads and I can immediately see what I'm going to do with it most of the time. Sometimes my brain just doesn't work, but most of the time I can picture what that strand or that little mix is going to be before I have even taken it out or taken the strand apart. So I love that. I love it. They do it with everything, but they do it even with the Swarovski instead of just giving you like a little bag of Swarovski, right? Because that's kind of boring. So anyway, take advantage of that. Today we're using Tensha beads, and the Tensha beads go so beautifully with Swarovski. I'm not actually using any Swarovski in today's project. That was an accident on my part. But on Friday, I have another Tensha project, and we are using some Swarovski. So I'm going to give you a sneak peek. This is not today's project. This is part of what we are going to be doing on Friday, and you can see I used this little Swarovski bicone. There are earrings that match this. We're going to do the necklace and the earrings because they're both pretty simple, so we're just going to put them together real quick and enjoy them, you know, one of those instant gratification kind of scenarios. So definitely grab your Swarovski now, and you know, there may be some more Tensha on the way. And I'm wearing the Tensha earrings that we made yesterday as well because they're just super, super, super cool. Oh, Sarah has a secret announcement. The Tensha beads are included in today's Beadsmas deal. How awesome is that? So, Tensha and Swarovski. You can't beat that. You just can't. I'm telling you, the Tensha beads are stunning, and we're using some today that are red, and they're just so, so pretty. I love them. So I feel like we make earrings all the time. So we're making a pendant today. And we are also going to create hold on. Remember how I said my brain sometimes just doesn't work? I was going somewhere and then I don't know. We're not going to create. We are going to use some herringbone wrapping in a way that is completely different than anything else that we've done. This is a little bit different. Normally the herringbone wire wrapping, there are loops on the top and the bottom. This one only has a single loop, so I'm hoping that this is kind of going to be like a jumping off point for you. For those of you who are just now thinking about trying out the herringbone wire wrapping, this might be a really good beginning step for that, because I feel like the herringbone wire wrapping, it looks beautiful, but sometimes it can be deceptive in that it looks complicated. It's really not. You just have to practice it a little bit and figure out which direction the wire needs to go. Once you get the direction down, pretty much the rest of it will take care of itself. But I'm going to show you how to do it with just one loop on the top. Okay, so that might be a little bit easier if you're looking for something easier to do. We're going to do it to 3 beads, and then we're going to attach them to a pendant that we're going to make that is actually a pendant variant on one that I made over on Silver Silk a while back, like weeks and weeks and weeks ago. So if you missed that one or you remember this pendant, then you'll be a step ahead. If not, this one is going to be a this is an easy pendant all the way around. So the results are really beautiful. So let's get started. We're just going to need a few things. So let's flip around here. And let me adjust the lights so that you can see. All right, so hint number 1, we're going to be using the large bell making pliers. I'm going to set these to the side for just a second though, because we're going to talk about the Tensha beads that we're using. So I've got this really, really beautiful red strand. I picked this strand because it is very holiday appropriate. However, you could use any of the Tensha beads from Jessie James Beads to do this project. Okay, so if you're potentially, really, I only add an extra syllable there. If you're potentially looking at Tensha beads and thinking about adding them to your cart, just know that this project will work with any of the colors. It doesn't have to be this exact strand. So anyway, I picked this really beautiful red color that pretty much matches my hair, and that is just one of those things that I do unintentionally, but tends to happen in my life a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut the strand and get the 3 Tensha beads off. And then we're also going to use one of the really beautiful red beads too. The rest of the beads that are on this strand you can use for all kinds of other good stuff. So I'm definitely not being wasteful by any means, because I have a plan for some of this other stuff. Okay, so I've grabbed the 3 Tensha beads and this 1 glass rondelle. And I still feel like the light is a little dark. How does the light look on your ear end, you guys? I hope it looks good. Yes, you're so right, Kelly. Perfect for Christmas and Valentine's Day. Yes, red's good stuff. You can even wear red in the fall, which I love. So I don't normally wear a lot of red because I feel like I already have a lot of red going on. But everything around me is red. So, okay, let's start with the herringbone wire wrapping, and then we'll build the pendant after that. The pendant is going to be kind of quick and easy. So let's start with what could potentially be the hard part for you, okay? All you're going to need is a little bit of 22 gauge wire. Give yourself several inches of this. I've got about a foot, maybe even more than that, and that is well over what we're going to need. But please give yourself at least a good 10 inches of 22 gauge wire to work with, okay? So grab your chain nose pliers. Let me move the bead out of the way. Okay, and you're just going to grab this wire. You're going to come down on the wire quite a bit. Give yourself about 3.5 inches, okay, of tail here. Bend the wire 90 degrees. You've got your long working tail. Just kind of tuck it under the table because it always tends to pop up and get in my way. And then you want to come in with your round nose pliers. We're going to go up and over just like we would any other wrapped loop, okay, except that this time when we do the wire wrapping, we're going to do about 8 wraps, okay? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you know what? Let's do 9 just for good measure. Okay, you just want to be sure that you've got over 1/4 of an inch. You know, we're kind of pushing, we're pushing a 1/2 inch there, but it's up to you, because the more room you give here, the more room you have for that herringbone weave. So you'll see what I mean in just a second. So I trimmed off the tail, okay? And now I'm just going to add on my Tensha bead, and I'm going to bring that down, okay? Okay, so now this is the part where the herringbone is actually going to happen. I know you do, Sharon. Every time I do herringbone wrap, I always think of you. It never fails. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to take this wire, okay, and be sure that you're holding the bead so that it is right up against those wraps. Don't let there be any room there. You want to keep everything nice and tight. You want to bend that wire, right, just at a little angle, okay? Then you're just going to go right on up the side of the bead, just laying it on the surface of the bead at an arch. And you can see I'm laying pretty close. There's really no room for anything else there, okay? And then going across the front, always across the front, no matter what kind of herringbone wire wrapping you're doing, across the front of the wire wrap here at the top, okay? And then loop around, just wrap right on over the top of the wraps that you've already made, right? Okay, straighten out your wire. Oh, I just hit the lamp, sorry. It sounded like a cowbell. Okay, so now we're gonna guide the wire down the surface of the bead on the other side, okay? But now when we come to the bottom, we've got this wire that is coming out. So that's gonna be the wire that we go behind, okay? And we're just gonna go all the way around this time. You're gonna go around the entire surface of the bead, right on back up here to the top. Did it again. It's a musical kind of day here. And wrap again around the wire wraps that you already made, okay? So now that wire is going all the way around. One side's got 2 wraps, one side only has 1, okay? That's kind of going to be your gauge of how to count. One side is always going to have more. And we're actually only going to do about 3 or 4 of these, so we don't have to do a lot. Okay, same thing. Guide that wire down the side of the bead behind that wire that's already there. Okay. And I'm holding it tight with my fingers because it's going to want to slip. You can see how it wants to slip to the back of the bead. That's okay. Just as long as it's still big enough, right? You just don't want to pull on it to make it too short. Okay, right on up to the top, and again around. And we're just going to do this one more time. So we've got 2 on one side and we've got 3 on one side, and you can see how they're starting to separate, okay? Don't worry, right? This is totally normal, and we're going to fix it in just a second. But we have to finish the wrapping first before we can adjust that, okay? So one last time, we're going down the side of the bead behind the last wire that's laying there, going all the way around the bead, okay? And then back up here to the top, okay? And wrap around. And I have enough wire, I'm gonna wrap around twice before I trim it off, just to kind of bulk up that top just a little bit, okay? So now I'm going to trim this off, and you can see I had a lot of extra wire, but that's fine because I always use it for something else. Just going to go ahead and trim that off, and you'll get to see this more than once because we've got 3 beads to do, so we've still got 2 more of these to go. Now you can see when I let go of everything, the wire is still wanting to separate. That's okay. Bring it up here, and with your fingernails, if you can, try to overlap some of those, right? So we were going behind at first, behind this first wire. If 1 or 2 of those wires needs to come over the top of those wires and be in the front, that's fine. If they don't and they will line up for you, You can squeeze them with your pliers on the outer edge just to make them play like they're supposed to play. There's going to be some spaces there. That's totally fine, right? You just don't want them slipping to the back of the bead. Okay. Adjust your loop if you need to, and just give it a good once over, and it's good to go, right? It's not perfect. There are some spaces. I'm okay with that. It still looks really cool from the front, and that's pretty much the technique. That's all you got to do the herringbone wrap with one loop on the top. So we're going to do this again. Kelly wants to know how I store my wire wraps. Any tricks? Okay, so I wish that I had some really inventive, very clever thing to tell you, but the truth is that I take a Ziploc bag and just stick them down in a Ziploc bag. And I try very, very hard to separate the wire sizes out and then mark it with a a permanent marker on the outside of the Ziploc bag, but that doesn't always happen. So sometimes I end up with Ziploc bags that are full of wire and I have no idea what gauge it is. So I just have to pull it out and guess. So if you were looking for something interesting, something clever, I don't have any clever solution. I wish I did. I'm sure that there is something very clever, but I just don't have the answer. Okay, so let's do it again, okay? Because practice makes perfect. We're going to grab that wire. This is just another piece of wire, fresh piece of wire, giving myself about 3 inches of the wire, bending at 90 degrees, okay? And we are coming in up and over, okay, all the way around. I'm going to switch hands, and we're going to do... We did 8 with 1 to grow on, so we'll just do 9, 5, 6, oops, 7, 8, 9. I should not have worn these rings today. Everybody's looking at the rings instead of... So, okay. I'll just address the elephant in the room. So these are, I think you say Sarda. I'm not sure if that's how you say her name or not. She's a designer. And I actually have the bracelet too. I have the bracelet on as well. I have several pieces of her jewelry. It's very Tibetan style sterling silver. And I don't know what I was in the mood. I don't know. This morning I was just like, you know what? I love these rings. I'm going to put them on and I'm going to wear them. But first I have to clean them. So I had to clean them. And I ended up with silver jewelry polish cleaner everywhere. My hands are so dry, but totally worth it. Totally worth it. I am all about the bling. And I have one more. It's blue, but I just didn't have a finger that it'll fit on. So I'll stick it on my toe. All right, so we have the wire wraps. I'm going to just put it on up there right next to the wraps, making sure that I don't have any, I know, right? Tina says we wouldn't be watching if we didn't all love jewelry. I know. That's so true. All right, so the bead is right up against the wraps. No room here, no wiggle room, okay? Bend the wire on the bottom. And I'm bending it to my right, okay? Guide it up the surface of the bead, right? And then you want to go with the wire in front of the wire wraps where your loop is, okay? And then you're just going to wrap behind and back around to the front so that you're going out this direction, okay? Same thing. Guide it down the wire, down the bead. Go behind that first wire and all the way up here to the top again, wire wrap, and going out that direction. Okay, so there's two wraps on one side, one on the other side, right? And we're going to go down the surface of the bead all the way back around, going behind all the wire wraps that we already did, back up here to the top. Wrap it around, and we're going to go one more time. Now keep in mind, when you're doing it this way and you don't have the wire wraps on the bottom, like the wire wraps here at the top, to use to guide and hold your wire in place, the more times around you go, the less room you've got back here, right? So eventually they are really going to start to slip on the back. So when I do this kind of herringbone wire wrapping with just one, you know, with one loop on it, I tend to keep it pretty short. I only do at the maximum maybe 5 wraps around. We're only doing 4 with this one. And of course, if you've got a bigger bead, you have more room. So I'm going all the way around the bead, pushing everything in with my fingers, back up here to the top, wrap around one more time, and then a second time just for good measure. Okay. Kind of pulling all that wire to the front. Going to trim off. Set this to the side. And again, just kind of give it a little wiggle. And it will, if you pull it to the front, it will eventually catch. It'll catch that one right there so that it's almost tucked underneath. Do you see what I mean? Just push them all to the front, and then of course you can always come in with your pliers and squeeze on the edges too. Okay, so that one's ready to go. We've got 2. We'll do one more, and then we will create the pendant that goes with this. Okay, last piece of wire. Come down, give yourself about 3 inches. Hi Karen. Hi Suzanne. And round nose pliers up and over. Okay. And then we're going to wrap around about 9 times. Whoops. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's probably already 9. We'll go around one more time just in case. If you're off 1 or 2 wraps either direction is totally fine. Okay, trimming that off. And now we're going to thread on this last bead. Okay. Bring it down to the wraps, holding everything still. Give that wire on the bottom a good bend. So now I can actually let go. Don't have to worry about it moving around on me. Okay, you know you've got a good bend if it's not going anywhere. Guide the wire up the side of the bead. Oops. And then around the wraps at the top. Okay, coming out the front, going that direction. Going down the side till we get to that first wire that we wrapped. Go behind it. Okay, back up to the top, wrap around. That wire is always coming across the top, going that direction, across the top of these, never from behind, okay? Same thing, guide the wire down, behind the wire that you already have. Up the side, back up to the top, wrap around. And we've got one more time around to go. Okay, down the side, well, if I can hold on to it, a little shorter piece of wire this time. Down the side, behind the wraps that are already there, back up, and around, and then around. I gave myself a little bit too much extra wire here, so go around one more time. Okay, now we're going to trim that off. And you can see you've got lots of spaces here, so I'm just going to work with it a little bit. I'm going to pull everything up where I want it to go. Sometimes if you've done your wire wrapping too tight, there we go. It just popped right into place. Okay. If you've done your wire wrapping really, really tight, It does take a little bit of extra pushing to get it to go into place, but you can see how I got that lined up really, really nicely. But you saw before I did that, I had these big spaces. So don't worry if as you're doing it, you do have the big spaces. That doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It's just, you just fix that part at the end, okay? So don't get discouraged if you're worried about it. I do want to turn mine around though, so that more of that rose is showing to the front. Okay, so there are the 3 Tensha beads with that wrap on them. Okay, so these are going to be the beads for our pendant. So let's put the pendant together. It's really, really simple and easy. All you're going to need is a 5-inch piece of 16 gauge wire. If you don't have 16, you can get away with 18 on this. You just want to work hard and a little extra, okay? So I actually do need my small bell making pliers for just one thing. I forgot about that. So I have my small bell making pliers and my large bell making pliers. You can use your round nose pliers for this part, but you definitely need the large bell making pliers for the next part, okay? So on either end of this, I cut it flush to make sure that it's nice and flat. There aren't any spiky points there. It's gonna lay nicely. I'm gonna take, let's see, let me double check. I'm gonna take the small mandrel, the smallest one, okay, and I'm grabbing the wire right at the end. I'm just gonna turn a loop to make that P shape. Then I'm going to come to the other side and do the exact same thing, trying to go in the same direction so that they're both going to be facing each other, okay? And just do the same thing, turning a loop there on the end. Okay, so now this is what we've got. Okay, now I'm going to come in with the large bell making pliers, and we're going to grab, just start on one end, okay? Grab that wire where that loop is right up against the barrel of the pliers. We're going to use the larger mandrel, and we're just going to roll back to create that shepherd's hook, okay? We're going to do the exact same thing over here on the other side, grabbing the wire so that it is right up against the barrel of the pliers. That loop is sitting right there. There's no wiggle room. Rolling back. Okay, so now we have the shepherd's hook on either end. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to find the center, and you can just guess. It doesn't have to be exact. What happened to the one I had? I had one that I was looking at to make sure I was doing everything right, and now I have lost it. That's okay. So you just want to find the center and notice the direction of the shepherd's hooks, okay? They're down here on the bottom. We're going to use this larger barrel again, okay? And I'm just going to guide the wire up. I normally do this with just one hand, and okay, we're creating this V shape. You just want to pull the two together, okay? And if it's not exact, you can wiggle it just a tiny bit, okay? Take it off of the tool, make it nice and flat. So we have this really kind of interesting filigree looking piece, right? Or 2 eyes and a big nose. All right, so I'm going to take this, I'm going to put this on the block just for a second. I don't need to do a lot of work hardening to this because this is 16 gauge wire. Whoa. Okay, but I do want to hit it a few times with my nylon hammer. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do to this is we are going to take a piece of 24 gauge wire, a very, very short piece of 24 gauge wire, and I'm going to do some wire wrapping right here. Even though it's not really going to come apart, this is just decorative, okay? This is not really holding anything together or anything like that. But I do want to wrap around and catch both in the middle a couple of times with this 14 gauge wire. And like I said, this is really just more decorative than anything, just to try to incorporate the wire wrapping into the pendant some, so that not all of the wire wrapping is on just the beads, okay? All I want is about 3 or 4 wraps here So I'm just wrapping some 24 gauge wire around. Okay. You could skip this part if you wanted to. It's just really just about the design. It's not about function. Okay, one more time around so that I've got 4 little wraps there. Okay. This guy is coming up from behind. I don't want that. I want them both on the back. Okay. Then I'm going to trim these off, and then I'm just going to kind of clean this up a little bit with my chain nose pliers. You can use nylon jaw pliers, whatever works for you. Okay, so I'm just trimming the tails off and just cleaning it up just a little bit, lining up the wire wraps, taking a look at the front, making sure everything is lined up the way I want it to be. And then I am going to squeeze it. And squeezing down on those wire wraps is also going to help to tighten them and flatten them. Okay, so those are lined up nice and pretty. They're not perfect, but they're good, right? Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we're going to add this red bead, and we're going to put it right here in the middle. We're going to use another piece of 24 gauge wire. I'm just using really, really short scrap pieces of the 24 gauge wire, okay? So I don't really have a real measurement. 3 inches is going to be plenty for this. I'm just going to put this on, or put the bead on the wire and lay it in the center here, okay? And then I just want to wire wrap around on either side about 3 times. And the good part about using the 24 gauge wire is it's so soft and really, really flexible, so you're not going to have any trouble, and there's plenty of room. If you're using something bigger like a 22 gauge wire, you really are going to struggle having enough room to squeeze the wire between the 16 gauge wire and the bead. So I really recommend doing this with the 24 gauge if you've got it. You could even do it with the 26 if you wanted to. All right, so there are 3 or 4 good wraps here. Bringing it to the back. I'm going to trim that off. Okay. And again, I'm going to clean that up just a little bit because they've separated out a bit. Okay. And now I'm just going to do the same thing over on the other side. And to keep it all uniform, I want the wraps to go back the same way. So that first initial wrap, that's towards the bottom, which is all upside down, I'm sorry, right? So we're actually wire wrapping up this direction, but holding it upside down just because it seems a little bit easier to hold. So there's 3, 1 more around. Bring it to the back and then trim it off. Oh no, it says it's stopped. Let's see. Motorcraft says Sarah has stopped. Anyone else? Am I frozen, you guys? I still see everybody else. So there is our bead right in the center. That's just going to help bring that red color up into the pendant. And then we are going to add our beads to this as well. So that's ready to go. We're going to hang a bead from either one of the loops and a bead from the center. And I'm going to use jump rings to do this just because this is such a small amount of space here between the bead and that wire. It would be very difficult to add a, or not to add, but to wire wrap directly onto this. You could if you wanted to. If you wanted to skip the jump ring part, you could wait to put this bead on, directly wire wrap onto the pendant, and then add this bead if you wanted to. Okay, but we're going to use jump rings just because they're handy, and why not? Got them, so we're going to use them. So I'm just using a 6mm jump ring, and I am going to have to slide this bead up just a tiny, tiny bit to make sure that I've got enough room to get that jump ring in there, which I do. Okay, then I'm going to hang one of my wire wrapped beads from that. Make sure I've got a good closure on the jump rings. You could stop at this point and it would be beautiful just like that, right? But we're extra and we're not ashamed to be extra. We love it. So we're going to add the other 2 Tensha beads as well. And just want to be sure that your beads are hanging in the right direction so that you're getting the front of that beautiful herringbone instead of the back. Okay, so there's 2, and we're going to add the last one, and then we're going to add some chain to this, and this pendant is going to be done. So this one was fairly quick. Really the hardest part of this is just working out that herringbone and making sure that it behaves the way you want it to. That just takes a little bit of patience, but you can totally do it. All right, so now we have this really, really beautiful pendant that doesn't take away from the Tensha beads, right? It's really showing off the beauty of the Tensha beads and still being pretty, right? I mean, it's not just a plain loop where you've got beads hanging on it. You know, you still have some decorative elements here. You're bringing the red up into the pendant with that addition of another bead. If you wanted to, in these 2 spaces here, you could add 2 more glass beads if you wanted to. I just felt like maybe that was too much, but if that's your thing, then totally go for that as well. All I want to do to the rest of this is I just want to add 2 pieces of chain to this on either side with jump rings, and then I will put this on a bust so you can see it because it just hangs really, really beautifully. Get these attached, and then I'll show you where I've attached the jump rings. So I just attached the jump rings on either side of the pendant on the top side, right, of those curves there. Okay. All right, let me grab a bust and I will show it to you. I have the squeakiest chair in the whole world. It's very noisy. It's not the chair, it's me hitting the lights. All right, hold on just a second and then I will turn you around, just trying to get this attached real quick and show you. Okay, so get you guys back around. Hello, hello. Fix the lights so that we are not blinding everyone with the reflection off of my face. All right, so let me hold it up and show it to you so you can see. It's really unique, very, very different, but I feel like it's a really beautiful way to show off those beautiful Tensha beads. And if you wanted to, you can do this exact same wire wrapping technique, but you could add a Swarovski bead, a little bicone at the top of each one of the Tensha beads before you start that herringbone wire wrapping, and it would be beautiful, just like an extra little bit of sparkle or shine to that. I think it would be really, really cool. So that's it, you guys. If you wanted to add, or rather, if you wanted to get over on jessiejamesbeads.com an additional strand of the Tensha, then you could make the matching earrings, you know, just do the herringbone wire wrapping and then just add an ear wire to it and you would have a matching set, perfect for the holidays. And it makes a really good gift. I love to give jewelry. Everybody that I know gets jewelry for the most part, from me at least. And I love to give jewelry where everybody looks at it and goes, oh, how did you do that? And I swear, herringbone wire wrapping, that's the one. That's the one. That can be your secret weapon. Learn how to do it. Learn all the different ways that you can do it with 1 bead, 2 beads, 3 beads. Make little pea pods with the wraps on the bottom, the wraps on the top. And that is like my go-to when I really want to create something that looks way harder than it is, and people are always in awe. They're like, oh, that looks so intricate. How did you do that? You know, it looks so hard. Did that take you a long time? And I'm like, 10 minutes maybe. So it's been a good one. It's a good one. It's a good project and you can do it. Do not underestimate yourself. If you are afraid or intimidated by the herringbone wire wrapping or any of the wire wrapping that I show you guys, these earrings that we did yesterday, a lot of people were scared to try this because they felt like it was above their skill set. I promise it's not. You have to give yourself a little bit of patience, a little bit of grace, and once you learn it and do it over and over again, it just becomes second nature to you. You can rock it. And what's really cool about it is that you're learning something new and that boosts your creativity. You learn the technique and then all of a sudden it opens up all of these different ways where you can use that technique in different ways. Or maybe you come up with something totally unique and different that nobody else is doing. I love that. I love it. So you can do that. Don't be scared. Give it a try. It just takes a little bit of patience. And at the end of the day, it's just wire. You can always start over again, right? It's not gonna cry. You might, but I hope not. If you feel like you're gonna cry, you send me a message and I will walk you through it. We don't want anybody crying while they're making jewelry. I've done all of that for you already. Okay. I've been there, done that. I have the t-shirt to prove it. So I've taken care of that part. All right, you guys are you're so sweet. You're so sweet. I love it. Thank you so much for joining me today. Tomorrow, you guys will get me twice. I will be on Jesse James Beads at 11 a.m. for another fun project. And then you will see me again on Silver Silk and More Facebook at 6:30 p.m. So don't forget to set your reminders. And then last but not least, on Friday, I will be here again on Sarah Ellis Designs at 1 p.m. to give you yet another project. So you guys, we've still got 3 more to go. It's been such a busy week. I'm so glad to share all of these projects with you guys. It's always a pleasure. Don't forget to check out your 20% off discount that you're going to get over on jessijamesbeads.com. That is good on the Swarovski and the Tensha beads, which is awesome. Go ahead and stock up on those. Enjoy your, I can't remember what day we're on, but we're celebrating Beadsmas on Jesse James Beads. So take advantage of that. You guys have a wonderful rest of the day and I will see you guys tomorrow.